always at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. I want to talk about the 49ers rookie minicamp, go through the ins and the outs of what happened in a rookie minicamp review, but I also want to talk about some of the moves that the 49ers made over the weekend. 49ers added players, 49ers released players, and they've continued to make moves to continue to build this roster. And it's something that we've talked about a little bit, was the fact that just because the draft had passed didn't mean the 49ers weren't going to add veterans to this roster. It wasn't going to be complete. Now they made it through the NFL draft. They signed their undrafted free agents. Now they knew which positions they weren't able to address during the draft, and now could go out and get veterans, low cost, high priority veterans that they could institute into this roster for either depth reasons or just to see what you have there with some key players. And this is kind of the approach the 49ers were going to go with, because they didn't want to lose any players with a compensatory formula. So signing veterans after the draft, you don't lose any draft picks. So the 49ers right now are slated for 3 compensatory picks in 2026, and that could easily become 4. So the 49ers are moving in the right direction as far as the offseason and how they're planning on building this team. But this was a pivotal time for a lot of young players. There were not just the guys who were drafted, 11 draft picks for the 49ers that showed up to Santa Clara to get their numbers, to get acquainted with the 49ers staff, to get used to how meetings are going to go. They are starting to learn the way of the 49ers. They're learning about where their lockers are going to be and what is going to be expected of them and where they're going to be going to train and where they go to recover. There's a lot of nuance to what they're going to be doing, and the 49ers are laying it out for the rookies. But it's not just those 11 rookies who are coming in to get this crash course in what it means to be an NFL player and what it means to be in a 49ers culture and play the 49ers way. There was also undrafted free agents as well, minus Stone Blanton, who he signed his contract today, but he was getting married over the weekend. That's why he wasn't there for rookie minicamp. But you had these 5 players, minus Stone Blanton, coming in and starting to make a name for himself. We'll talk about the guys who were impressing at rookie minicamp. But then there were also a lot of guys coming in for tryouts. This was an opportunity for them to impress the 49ers, maybe have an opportunity to get on the 90-man roster. Maybe the 49ers look and say, you know what, that guy, I'll throw one out there, for instance, like a Marcus Ware, guard out of Montana State. Okay, maybe he is just a little bit better than somebody else we have at the back end of our roster. Let's give him a shot. Now, as of right now, that has not been the case. But that is exactly why these guys come in for tryouts. So we're going to talk about some of the guys who came in for tryouts that were a little bit interesting as well. So this is going to be a jam-packed episode. We're going to go over everything that happened from Friday and Saturday of rookie minicamp, from veteran signings to rookie standouts to undrafted free agents making plays, and even second-year players, because there are second-year players that were at rookie minicamp. This is something that always happens. You have to have a fuller roster to be able to go through drills. And so it's going to be a fun episode. I'm looking forward to talking some San Francisco 49ers, some young players, and some team building as the 49ers bring in some key veterans. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. And if you are going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing, and we're into the NBA and NHL playoffs, and Bet Online has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With a large selection of odds on everything from the MLB, NBA, NHL, and UFC, Bet Online remains the best online source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head on over to the Bet Online Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Bet Online, the game starts here. So The weekend got off to a fever pitch when the San Francisco 49ers announced that they had released defensive end Drake Jackson. And this one kind of came at a surprise, only for the fact that just days prior, Drake Jackson had posted on his Instagram story he was going to be tearing up the field this season. That led us all to believe that Drake Jackson was healthy and ready to go. But in fact, that's not the case. Drake Jackson failed his physical for the San Francisco 49ers. And it seems that this was a preemptive statement by Drake Jackson because he probably was aware that if he failed his physical, that the 49ers were going to release him. So he might have been putting that out there so that way he could let other teams know, hey, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be out on the open. And so maybe you could come in and grab me. So 49ers move on from a former second-round pick in Drake Jackson. It just never really happened for him. And really the end of his career has been so far, and hopefully he'll continue to play. I hope he lands somewhere. We'll see what happens. Hope he gets healthy. But marred by injury. This injury was very, very bad for him, and it's been a tough recovery process. And John Lynch talked about this before the draft, that it was just so tough. He didn't know where Drake was. There had been some setbacks. So Drake Jackson is on his way out. Another player that ends up going on his way out is Trey Tomlinson. And I had just talked about Trey Tomlinson last week, that I was kind of excited about him because I loved him coming out of TCU and didn't feel like he really had an opportunity with the Los Angeles Rams. In fact, last year he was hurt pretty much all year. So I was excited to see what he could do with the 49ers. He was a former second-round pick. I liked his potential, but he failed his physical as well. So the 49ers had to move on from two veterans. And, with roster spots becoming open, the 49ers were able to make some other moves, which is exactly what they did. We have been clamoring for the 49ers to add on the offensive line. For some, this is probably not going to impress too much, but the 49ers did add on the offensive line, and it started with a couple of guys. First off, it started with offensive tackle Andre Dillard, and Dillard's been in the league for a while. He was a former first-round pick. And, when you're looking at a guy who's been, picked in the first round, they're going to have all the traits you're looking for: 6'5", 315 pounds, 33.5-inch arms, which is that, that threshold. Over 33-inch arms, you can play tackle. He's out of Washington State originally, played for the Green Bay Packers, played for the Tennessee Titans. Athleticism, a 4.96, 40. Quick enough, a 1.69 10-yard split, which is pretty good. So the guy can absolutely move, change of direction. The 3-cone is 7.44. He's strong enough with a 24 bench press reps. This was all coming out of college. This dude was a 4-year starter when he was at Washington. So he's a guy that's got a lot of ability. Has it ever been phenomenal in the NFL? No, but he's a guy that can play left tackle. He's got the ability to be a consistent backup. And I think that's what the 49ers are looking for. They're looking for guys that can be consistent backups. Now, it's interesting because just last week, they signed DJ Humphries as well. And, DJ Humphries is phenomenal. Now, he's coming off injury too, so maybe the 49ers are trying to hedge their bets with multiple offensive tackles just to make sure. But Humphries should be, fully healed from the hamstring injury he had last year and well removed from the ACL injury that he had a couple years ago in 2023 playing for the Arizona Cardinals. So they add DJ Humphries, former first-round pick, to potentially be their swing tackle. He's 31 years old. Now they add Andre Dillard, 30 years old, former first-round pick as well. They are stacking up on guys who have a lot of potential. And how much potential can you have at 30 years old? Well, I think it depends on scheme fit. And we've seen Andre Dillard especially play in schemes that fit what the 49ers do. Green Bay, of course, Matt LaFleur runs a very Shanahan-esque offense, outside zone. He's going to be well equipped to handle this offense. It's going to be a smooth transition for him. But even Tennessee, same thing, right? They had guys like Daniel Brunskill because they ran a similar offense. outside zone, the traditional play action pass. So there's a lot of things that, make these guys a little bit interesting when you're talking about Andre Dillard and what he provides. A lot of strengths, that I think that the 49ers are really going to like to be able to use, to help. And I think that he still has the ability to be a consistent player in this league. And so he's got the ability to help this football team. And I think the 49ers needed to add a veteran along the offensive line. Now, the questions are, is he coming to compete with DJ Humphries? Is he coming in to be another offensive tackle, depth piece? We've seen the 49ers do this before, where they'll have one guy that plays left tackle, one guy that plays right tackle throughout training camp, and then eventually they will decide which one will be swing tackle. That's always a possibility. I think this does further ensure that Spencer Burford's not playing tackle. I know a lot of people have been clamoring for Spencer Burford to move outside. He does have versatility to play tackle in a pinch, that's for sure. He's even done it. But I think this is illustrating the 49ers are getting a lot of offensive linemen to prepare for competition. They know the offensive line needs to be the best it possibly could be. So adding a Dillard makes a lot of sense. I think that this is a interesting move. I think him playing tackle is something that's interesting. This would ensure Spencer Burford goes inside, unless they decided to move Dillard inside. Dillard does have 4 position versatility. He can play left tackle, he can play left guard, he can play right guard, he can play right tackle. So I think that he's one of those guys that's interesting when you're talking about his flexibility and where he could end up playing. And he's played, both sides of the offensive line in the NFL. So Andre Dillard ends up being the first one, a former first-round pick in 2019. So that's a solid pickup for the San Francisco 49ers. But they weren't done. They also picked up another offensive tackle who fits the system, played for the Tennessee Titans, this time a former third-round pick in Nicholas Ferrer, 6'5", 316 pounds. Right? So Andre Dillard and Ferrer are very similar size. He comes out of Ohio State. He ran a 5'1", 440. Not as athletically gifted as Andre Dillard. Dillard is definitely a lot more gifted, but Ferrer is a younger version of Andre Dillard. Ferrer is still under the age of 26 and only been in the league for a few years. You look at the measurables, and I mean, the guy has got abilities, to be a very consistent player in the NFL. He's got the big old hands. He moved well when it came to the 40-yard dash. I think those are some things that you like about Ferrer. And I think the 49ers look at him as another guy that they feel like they can continue to build, who in college was a really good run blocker, who needed to develop a little bit more when it came to pass blocking. And so Ferrer was a top 10 offensive tackle coming out in the draft just a couple years ago. So you've got the potential to maybe get your hands on this guy and develop him into a key contributor. And, some of the things that you liked about him coming out that you feel like the 49ers could work with is the athleticism. He's got great mobility and footwork. He looks light on his feet, and that lower body quickness really helps him be able to mirror defenders. Those are huge things that are going to play into, his ability to help. He's also got ideal size for an offensive tackle. And so the footwork and technique was pretty good in college. Now, it hasn't translated, so this guy's going to have to get figured out. And some of the reason why it hasn't been figured out is some of the weaknesses that he had in college have been highlighted in the NFL. He's undisciplined at times. He struggles to play in space, especially when he's out at tackle. Now, one of the problems with him, too, is he doesn't have the best anchor. And so that could be a little bit problematic if you were expecting them to move him inside. I don't think he can move inside and be really good because of it. Now, another thing that he does is he loses balance a lot. He's a waist bender at times, and he could get his front side bent over too far and become unbalanced. We know the way that defensive tackles are kind of whipping people now. That's a big problem. But I like this idea by the 49ers. Let's go get 2 guys that were extremely talented. Now, they're both at different parts of their career. One has got a lot of experience with Andre Dillard. The other with Ferrer is still on the young side. And let's see what we can get out of these guys in camp. No guarantees they make the team, but a opportunity to come in and produce. Because right now you have so many question marks when it comes to other players on this team. Nick Zakelj, Spencer Burford, Ben Barch, all of them are going to be free agents next year. Why not go in with the best competition? Let's just see what happens. You're not tied to anyone. You're not tied to any young player. There is nobody besides, Dominic Pooney and Trent Williams that you have to be like, you know what? They are going to be on the team. Everyone else, your position is up for grabs. You better show up. And let's add some more guys to the mix. And I love the fact that they added two hyper athletic, big guys who fit the scheme and can come in and compete consistently. And let's see what happens. But it also ensures, in case something, heaven forbids, happens to Colton McKivitz in training camp, you don't have to go Spencer Burford at right tackle. You could go Andre Dillard at right tackle. And is it going to be fantastic? No. But you're going to get somebody that has played a lot of games in the NFL and can be consistent. Or you go DJ Humphreys at right tackle, and now your new swing tackle is Andre Dillard, and you feel comfortable because he can play, all four positions minus center. So the 49ers definitely did that. But then why not take a shot on a Petit Ferrer? You liked him coming out of college. You like the athleticism. It fits the system. Maybe Chris Forrester could really figure him out, and then you could add a very talented offensive lineman, and maybe he ends up being a guy that you could see in the future helping your football team. So take shots, make some things happen. That's what the 49ers did along the offensive line. The last guy that they signed was Dallas Flowers, and he was, out of Pittsburgh State, 6'1", 196 pounds, and this is a Gus Bradley special because he played for Gus Bradley with the Colts. In fact, he was an undrafted free agent in 2022 and made their roster. So this is a guy that, knows Gus Bradley well. Gus Bradley knows him. Last year, he split time between the Colts and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In his career, he's had 5 starts. Not a lot of opportunities when he's in there. He's played okay. Where he's really made a name for himself is when it comes to being able to get returns and being able to do things in special teams. And so that's going to be one of the areas that he's going to be asked to probably help. The 49ers are probably looking for another angle and another return guy. He had a pretty good return for the Indianapolis Colts. He had some opportunities in college where he was one of the better return guys in college football. And so I went and watched some of his film doing that as well. So I think the 49ers go get some depth with losing Trey Tomlinson. You add now a different type of cornerback. Tomlinson on the smaller side. And then when you look at Dallas Flowers, you're getting a big, physical, 6'1", 200-pound player that can step in and deliver a punch, but also has length that the 49ers really like at the position, more of an outside corner. But he has that ability to potentially be a return guy as well. More competition, right? You get Bergen, you get Flowers, you have Jacob Cowing. They are adding to the mix of these return guys, and I think it's a solid move. But Gus Bradley, signs off on a player that I'm sure he feels pretty comfortable with, and that's exactly what you're trying to do. But when you're looking at a guy that's 6'1", 200 pounds, who runs a 4.4, and has a really good broad jump, you're talking athleticism. He's got one of those guys that can go up and make plays, kickoff and punt returner. So a little bit older because he came out so late. He was already 25 years old when he came out of Pittsburgh State, had been around to multiple teams throughout his career. But I think that he's an interesting guy the 49ers brought in, and I look for him to compete for a back-end roster spot. And I think that his way on the team could be kickoff return, punt return, and it kind of will definitely help him if he's able to add in those areas because the 49ers definitely need it. So those were the guys they signed, and of course I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up, but I got to bring this up. The San Francisco 49ers are also meeting with Gabe Davis, the wide receiver formerly of the Buffalo Bills and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think that that's an interesting one for the 49ers because, Gabe Davis could be a starting X. The Jacksonville Jaguars released him over the weekend. Kyle Shanahan had alluded to when players get released off of rosters, and he had kind of alluded it more like after training camp, but this one happened after the draft, that potentially the 49ers could be interested in getting a guy like Gabe Davis. And why not? Davis is a big individual who's made some plays in his career, a lot of touchdown catches for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. but he was released from Jacksonville after 1 year of a 3-year, $39 million deal. And he had a lot of injuries last year. He had a torn meniscus that ended his 2024 season, but he had 20 catches for 239 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they released him because of a failed physical. So I think that there are question marks about, his injury history. That's probably one of the reasons that he became available. But this is a guy that can absolutely stretch the field vertically. He makes a lot of touchdown catches. I mean, he was a touchdown machine when he was playing for the Buffalo Bills. So there was just a big game Gabe is what they called him a lot of times, because he was able to make some plays out there. So I think that he's a little bit of an interesting prospect, and I wanted to bring it up because I think there's an opportunity for the 49ers to potentially add a wide receiver, and question marks about Demarcus Robinson and when he's going to be available, I think has been one of the question marks now since he's been signed. Well, you wouldn't have to worry about that with Gabe Davis, right? You have the comments from Kubiak about Jauan Jennings being wide receiver 1, and you don't have to play X to be wide receiver 1. But if you could add Gabe Davis and you could get a big, physical, fast wide receiver to play X while Brandon Ayuk's to go with a big physical receiver like Jauan Jennings and a very talented route runner like Ricky Pearsall, I think you would feel pretty confident early in the season. Then once you got Demarcus Robinson back from suspension, that is a nice 4-headed group, with you having a couple of young guys who are speedsters with Jacob Cowing, right? And Jordan Watson as well. So you could put together a very good wide receiver room until Brandon Ayuk gets back. Now, you would have the exemption to keep other guys early, so there would still be a roster spot available, for one of these guys, a Bergen, or, a guy we're going to talk about a little bit, Isaiah Naer. There's going to be some opportunities, but I think Gabe definitely gives the 49ers an interesting possibility there. Gabe Davis could be somebody the 49ers sign, and I think that could be coming up. He's in the building. We'll see if the 49ers let him leave the building without a contract. But let's talk a little bit about rookie minicamp, and I got to start with Isaiah Naer, the undrafted free agent. We knew that 6'4", 220-pound frame was going to catch people's attention, and people are seeing what I think a lot of people realized as soon as they signed him as an undrafted free agent. When you got a guy that big that can run a 4.4 40, that has a 35-inch vertical leap, that could go up and get 50-50 balls, there's going to be a lot of exciting plays. And Naer was out there making plays on the field. He was looking different. He was looking impressive compared to the other players on the field. And, that's the thing. You put him out there with the 49ers' current wide receiver group, and he's still going to look pretty impressive. Jauan Jennings, up there in size. Isaiah Hodgins up there in size. But Isaiah Naer is a name to watch throughout this process. And I'm glad that he got everyone's attention. Now, the other one getting everyone's attention, and even though Naer was the undrafted free agent that was doing it, the drafted player that got the most attention through the rookie minicamp, Mikul Williams. And the videos of Mikul Williams that have been, going around, going viral, amongst 49er fans on Twitter and all social media platforms, he was absolutely showing the power, the strength, the handwork, the ability that I know we all love. And he looked like a grown man out there, even though he's just 20 years old, throwing guys around, ran over a staffer who was holding the bag. I mean, he was just going to town. He looked the part. Mikul Williams looked like a first-round pick that was different than everybody else out there. And so that's exactly what you want to hear from your young first-round pick. So the 49ers know Mikul Williams is ready to roll. And the guy was working hard. There's nothing given to this guy. This guy's going out and trying to take everything. This is an exciting development for the 49ers. So Mikul Williams, just limited practice, right? They're not wearing pads. Everything is against bags. Some things are against air. But he looked the part. He looked physical. He looked strong. He looks like he's going to be able to make an impact very early, maybe even from day one. And I think that's impressive. So Mikul Williams looked the part. Now, I did get a lot of emails about the next guy I want to talk about really quick, because Alfred Collins did not participate in rookie minicamp. Now, there was a incredible picture where they took a shot from behind as he was watching practice. And this man is just a large man. The fact he's nearly 6'6", 330 pounds, but he is well put together. He's got tree trunks for legs. His upper body is bulky and big. Not much, fat on this guy. Like, this dude is an impressive individual. And a lot of people are questioning his injury. And so, just to kind of clear everything up, because I did get multiple emails about it, and I appreciate you guys reaching out to me, with the weekend the way it was, I wasn't able to get back to you, but I thought, I'll just address it on the show. Alfred Collins is somebody that I'm not worried about lower leg injuries right now, and I think a lot of people kind of are worried about it because of Javon Kinlaw, right? We've all been burned by big individuals with lower leg injuries, but a little bit different for Kinlaw. He had something that could turn into a chronic issue, where Alfred Collins, from everything that I've been able to find out, was dealing with a high ankle sprain when he had his pro day. So a high ankle sprain can be up to 8 weeks, of recovery time. And the thing is why go risk him potentially getting injured or re-injured going through rookie minicamp? There was nothing that he was going to get out of that was going to be beneficial to him potentially re-injuring an ankle. So just give it time. And, the key is he got to go. He got to get involved with teammates. He got to learn the 49ers way. He got to go to meetings. He's learning how to do things. He's listening to the coaching. And as this thing goes on, they'll either introduce him to OTAs or they will introduce him when they get to mandatory minicamp, which is what I would think would be the best scenario for Alfred Collins. Wait until then. That's another, a few weeks away. It's in June. And you go ahead, you go through that, mandatory minicamp. He should be healthy by then. And then you feel good about Alfred Collins being out there with teammates. But the key is making sure everyone is healthy for training camp. And so, no, I'm not worried about it. If this would have been something more structural and not an ankle sprain or something like that, then yes, I would have been concerned. But he was somebody that didn't practice, that people had a lot of questions, and comments about. Now, a player that caught everyone's attention also this week was Nick Martin because of his shoe attire. He was wearing shark slippers, and that got everyone's attention. But what got everyone's attention on the field? The speed. That was the one thing that everyone said was you could see the speed out there on the field. He's different. He's lights out when it comes to sideline speed. And so I thought that he performed really well this weekend. We did not get to see Marcus Siegel. He was dealing with something. We'll find out what that ends up being. And so Upton Stout was another guy that looked really good in this process. Quick hips, able to flip and run with guys. He looks the part as well. He looked pretty good. And so that's something that's, phenomenal to hear. But the 49ers, brought in several guys, for workouts. They brought in some guys that were going to be able to compete. And so some of those guys are also interesting in the grand scheme because we'll see what happens as the 49ers continue to build out their roster. But I wanted to bring up a couple of guys that I'm interested in. I had talked about, the wide receiver earlier, Isaiah Naer. And a guy that is very similar to Isaiah Naer has to be Tariq Owens. And Matt Mayoko had an article come out today where he talked about how impressive Tariq Owens is and was, and how he really has impressed the team. And I know a lot of the team was saying last year, a lot of the coaching staff and front office, that they were impressed with Tariq Owens' improvement. Tariq Owens was one of the most raw, prospects that went through rookie minicamp last year on a trial. They brought him in, they worked him out, they ended up signing him. And part of the thing that's intriguing about Tariq Owens, he came into football way late, but he's got a big body, 6'3", 200 pounds, right? Isaiah Naer, 6'4", 220 pounds. You got Tariq Owens, 6'3", 200, out of Missouri State. You kind of like this big individual. The 49ers have been looking for some of those bigger wide receivers, and they get one there. So Tariq Owens, Isaiah Naer, Isaiah Hodgins, big physical wide receivers who are going to be in the mix, and the 49ers might have a role for them because right now the 49ers don't have a Chris Conley that they normally had, that big guy that could come in, step in for Jawan, step in on short yardage and be able to block. So what are they going to be able to do? Tariq Owens is going to be interesting. I want to see how much better his route running has got once we get to training camp. I want to see how he competes for footballs, 50-50 footballs, if he can create separation. That's going to be one of the difficult things for Nair and for Tariq Owens is being able to use their long legs to generate, be space eaters, but then also come back for the football and create separation against corners. So those are some guys that are interesting. As we go through the list of the guys that were out there, I will highlight the names of the guys, that I am the most interested to see what happens with them, whether they end up getting an opportunity with the 49ers or if, they're just somebody to watch and see what happens as we get closer to training camp. Because I do think there's a few guys that are interesting that came in on tryouts. I think Jack Howe, the safety from Colorado State, I brought him up before. I think he's interesting. I think Bentley Henshaw, the tight end from Liberty, who had a fantastic catch in the rookie minicamp, went up and got it on the sideline. I think he's interesting when it comes to being an H-back and potentially playing as the move tight end as well. What is he going to look like compared to, another guy within this offense who the 49ers have been high on when you're talking about the tight end position? Because the 49ers are looking for tight ends, and Mason Pline, they got him last year from Furman, 6'7", 260 pounds. I mean, he's got all the size in the world, but it's completely developmental. You got Bentley Henshaw, that's a different type of player, 6'3", 241, and a little bit older. So interesting to see how those guys operate. I think they're going to be interesting as well. The other guy that we're going to keep an eye on during this whole process when it comes to undrafted free agents, Jacob Robinson, the cornerback from Brigham Young. He's going to be one of the guys that I'm going to keep a focus on when we get to training camp. Really curious to see what he ends up doing, and I think he's an impressive player who the 49ers could ultimately use on their roster. And then not last, but I want to bring up two more guys. Number one, Marcus Ware. I brought him up earlier. So we had done a look at Marcus Ware during the draft process. He was brought up, and so I broke him down, and I'm a big fan of Marcus Ware. He's an interior offensive lineman, 6'2", 301. Did a ton of pass blocking in college. When you looked at Montana State, they pass blocked, it was a run blocking. I'm going blank. But they were really good at one, and they just did, I think it was run blocking, where he was just phenomenal. And so I am a fan of Marcus Ware. I think he's interesting to see what he can do. And so I think that he would be an interesting prospect for the 49ers. The problem is you have so many guys on the inside. Nick Zakel, you have Spencer Burford, you have Ben Barch, you have Drake Nugent, you have Matt Hennessy. Do you even have room for this guy, right? So I think that might make it a little bit tough, but I am curious to see what he ends up doing. Maybe they release, now they've signed so many offensive tackles, maybe they will release one of their other offensive tackles to make room for another young guy to come in. And the last one I want to talk about is Elijah Hills, the defensive tackle from Wisconsin, 6'3", 288, but was a penetrator last year. His first year in the Big Ten, he had 3.5 sacks. I think he's somebody interesting as well that I want to see if maybe he gets the opportunity to get onto the 49ers roster. So it was a good rookie minicamp. The 49ers added a veteran offensive lineman. They added a veteran kick returner / cornerback who could play dividends, who's played in this system before for Gus Bradley. So that's going to be interesting. So I think that they're adding veterans. They're probably not done yet of adding those guys. And then we're going to see what happens with a guy like Isaiah Naer and Tariq Owens and, some of these veterans and how they're going to be able to compete with those young guys who are stepping up and trying to make plays. And then we'll keep an eye on Gabe Davis and see what happens and see if he is able to be a San Francisco 49er. But the 49ers are still looking to build this roster. We're seeing young players get better. So OTAs are going to be happening. Of course, this week on Wednesday, we're going to have the schedule release. Games are already being leaked out. Nothing 49ers-wise so far. So we'll see what happens and how it plays out. But Wednesday, be on the lookout. I'm going to go through the schedule and talk about those games a lot. We'll get into the schedule, as this week progresses, a little bit more deeper dives after the release show on Wednesday. So if you want to join me for that, come check it out. And then as this week goes on, we'll talk schedule. And then I want to start getting into the roster and talking about, the players that are for sure going to make this team, talk about some players that are possibly going to be on the bubble and start talking about the depth charts of this roster. I think it's going to be a fun week. I'm looking forward to it. Lots of 49ers content coming your way. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening to audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode was brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.